We are
Beautifully Melanated Podcast. We have changed our name this week, and I just wanted to introduce myself and my lovely co-hosts. So my name is Sarah, and I am a counsellor, and I am from Kent.
Hi, I'm Karen. Please call me Kay. I'm a therapist. I'm also from Kent.
Hi, I'm Karen. Yes, I'm also called Karen. I am a mental health practitioner. I work with children, and I also live in Kent.
So today's episode 2, we will be talking about happiness. More specifically, what is happiness? So without further ado, we're going to get straight into it. Karen, would you like to lead us off? What is in your definition, what is happiness?
Oh, this is very, very interesting. Okay, so I think happiness for me is often fleeting. I don't think I can sustain happiness. I think that most people kind of have bursts of happiness. But I think what I strive for is contentment, I would say, rather than being happy and elated all the time, which I think is actually almost impossible to sustain. So what makes me feel content, what makes me feel good, or what I consider to be, as you say, happiness as a whole, would be good health. I think when I'm poorly, I realize how much I take my health for granted. And having good health is something that I absolutely value. So I think if I'm in good health, I'm usually in good spirits, right? So that's the first thing. I think love is really important, whether it's the love of my children, my family, my friends. I think to be loved makes me feel good. It makes me happy. I strive for that, I think, to receive and to also give love. Romantic love makes me happy. I think that being in love or feeling the love from a partner is very elating. It's a good feeling. Like I say, happiness for me is fleeting, right? So in relationships, I think you're going to have highs and lows, and I don't think you're necessarily happy all the time, but I do think romantic love makes me happy. And financial security, that's something else that's really important to me. I think that also gives me kind of balance, stability, I think those three things together give me like an equilibrium of maybe not necessarily happiness, but that kind of good place. I find that, I don't know about you ladies, but I feel as if I'm always firefighting, right? So if those things are off, or when other things come into my life that are really difficult, I feel like, I've spent most of my adult life firefighting. And just trying to fan fires. So when things are kind of calm, settled, and I have those things in place, I think that's usually when I'm at my happiest or my most content.
So Karen, can I ask you, in the absence of those three things, health, love, and financial security, could you still experience happiness? Or contentment? I'm going to go with your chosen word, contentment.
I think it's really difficult because I think if I were really ill, for example, I think about people who live with physical pain every day. I don't know. I guess maybe you'd have to find a new happy. I think that's probably what we do, isn't it? In the absence of something, you find a new way of feeling good. So, I think you do. And I think you're currently, you're constantly having to just rethink, reevaluate, and find the beauties in other things when those things are missing. Yeah, that's a really good question. What happens when I don't have those things? Oh, what about you?
Oh, sorry, I'm about to cut you, Kay. So
Go right ahead, Sarah. I was hoping you would.
Okay. For me, happiness is balance, and I think in life we're kind of, I don't know, kind of made to believe as children that we've got to be happy at all times and go around with a smile on our face and, you know, act as if the world is amazing at all times. And I think that can actually be quite manic, and it's impossible to live up to. Just not real. No one's happy all of the time. If they are happy all the time, I'm deeply concerned about them, what they think is happiness, and also how they portray themselves. So for me, happiness is balance. Balance in life, and happiness is good mental and physical health. And spending time with people that I love and that love me and respect me and I respect, and people that hear me and get me and listen to me. And it's got to be reciprocal. But for happiness, for me, is being surrounded by inspirational people, and good music. Inspirational people, good music, and love. That to me is happiness. Romantic love is happiness, but good friendships happiness. Family is happiness, and contentment, and nice warm sunshine brings me a lot of happiness. So nice warm sunshine with people that I love, to me, is like blissful. Whether that be in my back garden on a nice sunny day, whether that be, I don't know, in Jamaica, it's just, or anywhere, in fact, America, I don't care, just as long as the sun is shining, that is happiness for me.
Can you say something more about family being happiness, Sarah? It feels quite broad.
Yeah, so family happiness to me is, okay, I'll take an example, my partner and my daughter, and maybe his family, and just being amongst family to me, and being amongst my partner, my daughter, say his family, or even just my partner, my daughter, just eating a meal together, communicating together, laughing together, being around each other and kind of feeling each other's balance of emotion. It sounds strange, but I think if you're around people that you love and they are high vibe people, just being in their company to me makes me, I guess, quote unquote, happy. So having family around or friends around that match the high vibe that I would portray if I was happy, in a happy state, then that's fab for me. I just love that. And it's only as I've got older that I've really appreciated my physical and mental health to the max. I think without my physical health and mental health, I don't know what happiness would mean for me. So yeah. How about yourself, Kay?
I mulled over this today, actually, as I was getting ready to record. And it's interesting that the topic came. So, still in fact, I'm at happiness, what it is. But here goes. So, over the years, I've had different ideas and expectations of what would make me happy or what happiness is. And they were quite binary. And by that, I mean, I had fixed ideas. If I had this in my life, I would be happy. So in my 20s, it was, if I have my children now, I'll be happy. And so I had my children. In my 30s, I wanted a big house, a nice house in the countryside, big garden, a 4x4 for the school run, and money in the bank. And I pursued that quite rigorously, I would say. Late 30s into early 40s, I was really fixated on the idea of romantic love. And that without that, I couldn't possibly be happy because I'm on my own. And yeah, obviously that is not obvious to the listeners, but that didn't quite work out. So all these things I hung happiness on in different decades of my life turned out to be quite transitory. As Karen said, it's not a state I've experienced over any long period of time. Actually, it's moments. It's driving in my car. A song comes on and it takes me back to a time and a place when I was happy, and I crank it up and I have a whole concert in the car. And yeah, I get moments of feeling like, yeah, everything will be all right. Now that I'm pushing into my 50s, my idea of happiness has completely changed. It's being at peace with myself. I think looking back over the years of fighting with something or other, firefighting, as Karen has said, there is no other time I feel happy as when I'm at peace with myself. Doesn't matter what's going on in the world. Internally, I feel have their lives through, and I'm doing something I love, reading particularly, and studying and gaming with friends, loud games, Uno, double, anything that gets the adrenaline going, chase games. I love gaming. So yeah, that makes me quite happy. And I'm going to be quite controversial though and say money does make me happy. I grew up with this notion that money doesn't buy happiness. Heard it my whole life. And I always thought, I'd quite like to find out. I would rather have more than I need and find out if it makes me happy than not having enough and still feeling quite miserable. Yeah, it makes me happy. Money itself is an inanimate object. It's what I do with the money that makes me happy. I like to buy really nice quality food. I like having a coffee when I'm out. I like a chai latte. I like having money to do the things I want. And it doesn't have to be a big spend. It's just, new earrings. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think with money, money doesn't necessarily bring happiness, but it brings so much opportunity.
Yeah.
Which that's just the facts, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
It brings opportunity and it can bring a lot of security, money.
And it can also change other people's lives. And I'm very big on giving back and paying it forward.
Totally.
But when I'm in overdraft or if I'm in debt, then I can't help the way I would like to and change other people's lives. So actually, I would quite like to have more money than I need every month.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
And I think that would make me very happy because when I don't have it in its absence, I'm actually quite moody and frustrated.
I think, you said something that I really identify with. And that's why, for me, financial security was really up there. Because even if I didn't do anything nice with it, even if it wasn't to sort of buy sort of luxury items, just on a basic, fundamental, day-to-day basis, I want to put my heating on in the winter because it's cold.
Absolutely.
I can wear 3 jumpers, but I would like to put the heating on. I think for me, that's not even a luxury. I feel that is a very, very basic need. And when I hear families talking about, not being able to turn the heating on until certain times, or I just, that makes me sad. I think that, like I say, it's a basic need. Or like you say, being able to go and buy nice food. I don't always want to have to sort of, buy the cheapest option of something. When I'm feeding my children, I want them to have food that is of good quality. It doesn't mean you can't buy good quality food that's inexpensive, but you have choice, don't you? So yeah, I think money, like you say, it's not the money that buys you the happiness. It gives you security, it gives you freedom, and you can help people with it. You can. Yeah, I disagree when people say, it doesn't matter. I think unless I live in a kibbutz in, I don't know, the middle of outer Mongolia, then maybe it wouldn't matter. But in this country, I think you do need to have an amount of money to be comfortable.
Absolutely, Karen. And what I found in my 40s is that time means a lot to me. To have the time to think, reflect, relax, rest. Something as Black women we don't do enough, and we almost resist having to rest because why are we not constantly on the go being occupied? Well, money would afford me that. I have worked 2 jobs for over 10 years. I would quite like to work just 1 job, 3 days a week.
Yeah.
And have time. So time to myself makes me happy. but the money will facilitate that. Without that, then I carry on overworking and I don't enjoy the health or the wealth.
I've got a friend and her mum. I remember growing up, around her mum and going to her house when we were children and things. And she worked very hard. So she was, I think, an auxiliary nurse, as a lot of, women from the Caribbean came over and took on those kind of roles, right? And I watched her mum do nights and evenings and all sorts of shifts. And now that she's sort of, in late 70s, her health has really deteriorated and she is almost immobile. And it made me think, wow, this woman works so hard. And now in her twilight years, it's as if she can't really, benefit from that. She hasn't been able to really sort of receive the fruits of her labor because now her health is so poor. And it really made me think, I'd like to work smarter, not harder. Trying to work smart, trying to think of, I don't know, ways to be kind of lucrative and kind of resourceful almost, and not necessarily have to work myself physically into the ground, as I think many of our parents did. So I also think that for me, I try to find happiness daily in small things. I think that you both mentioned in small things, like in human interaction. I think that's why I found the lockdown so difficult, because I thrive off of human interaction. Like Sarah said, just, I don't know, the feeling the sun on your face is just so lovely. Or sitting in the car. I thought it was just me, okay, listening to music, cranking it up. I'm in my own concert. I am in the concert.
I have to say, talking about music, I have to say, having an Alexa in the kitchen has changed my life and my daughter's life. Like, for years I said, no, these things listen to you. And I thought, well, my phone listens to me anyway all the time. So seeing as the phone's listening, I might as well have 2 listening devices in the house. So, my daughter and I were talking about a song and we were painting today and we thought, should we put Alexa on? We put Alexa on and we asked it to play a radio station and it played the song we were talking about. So I thought, well, there we go. It's listening and it's listening hard. But that to me is happiness. Happiness is coming down in the morning, little things like you said, Karen, putting on the coffee maker, my daughter getting up in time, so we're not rushing for once, having breakfast and asking Alexa to put something on and we're both dancing to it.
Yeah.
That to me is happiness before we go out the door. Like, yes, we're in a good vibe. We're ready for the day.
Yeah.
And so, it's not just about having an Alexa, but it's about having music in the morning has been like life-changing for me. It's weird. And it has been music to me. Good music is happiness. Yeah. As well.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Eating together. Yeah, there's something really special about eating together with the kids. Often I'll wake my daughter up so she can have breakfast with me before I start work and she can go back to bed. But it's just sharing a cup of coffee together and having a hug and being together before the madness starts. Yeah, I feel quite happy with that. I would really still quite like the money. I ain't even joking. I want a good million. But for now, I'm content with good coffee and company.
You're so lucky because my youngest doesn't enjoy eating with me. So sometimes on a Sunday, I'll insist that we sit together because we used to, as a family, we'd all sit together. But I found that as my eldest has gone to uni and it's just my youngest and myself at home, she'd rather eat in the kitchen while I'm in the living room, or she'd rather eat it in front of the TV. And like I say, I do insist on a Sunday. I'm saying, look, come on, I've gone to the trouble of making all this. Let's eat together. Yeah. But she doesn't really enjoy it. So I miss that. I definitely miss that. What you're talking about is something I miss, just that kind of sharing and interacting over a meal or a coffee or something. I'll make pancakes and I tend to bring it to her room because she's just at that age. It's just the age, isn't it? So I'm hoping that she'll come out of this and that we will find each other again.
I think it's the age, but I also think it's our culture in this country, because I have family in Switzerland. When I've been over there to see them, wow, it's so different. It's like their evening meals, they'll get a huge long table out in the garden and they'll have all their family there and neighbours and everybody, and everyone will sit and eat together. They'll eat, they'll drink, and they'll smoke heavily. And, you know, they're great. They're really lovely people, and their sense of community. So I think there's something, and eating together like that's normal for them. You know, you eat with your neighbour and you want some food, and, you know, it's very European, I guess, but not even just European. I just think this country, we've kind of, I don't know whether we used to do it more. Maybe some places they do it more, but I find we're all very kind of separate here. Obviously, families families do eat together, but it's very different than, say, my family in Switzerland. Totally worlds apart. I've never seen anybody in this country do that.
Yeah, it's definitely feels like something in the West. I grew up in Jamaica and on a farm to boot. So our breakfast was out the back door. What are we having? Open the door. Let's have a look. So I'm used to waking up to the smell of breadfruit roasting, saltfish cooking, ackee coming off the tree in our backyard.
Yeah,
nobody's leaving until we've eaten. And we sit outside and we eat together and we draw the mint tea and put any amount of sugar in it till it's sweet. No counting how many spoons, it's just sweet. And then we all went off to school, to work, but we were always eating together. And the West feels like everybody's on different schedule. You know, the kids going to two different schools, start at two different times, for instance. Sometimes mom doesn't even get breakfast. I don't like that bit. I think we've lost that.
I think when I went to France, actually, I went for a wedding. The experience you're talking about in Switzerland, Sarah, is very, very similar to what I experienced in France. They'd have these huge tables outside. And like you say, the neighbours would come and you'd sit and you'd just sit out and eat. And then they get the cheese board out. And then we'd have wine. And then they'd sit and smoke. And we'd just talk until the sun went down. And it felt lovely. To be fair, I have experienced that in this country. I mean, you know, we've often sat together, haven't we, in each other's gardens and kind of enjoyed that kind of thing. But I think you're right. I think there's something about this country, and I think it's also this time. I think things are different because growing up, certainly, I couldn't eat my dinner in my bedroom. Absolutely not. I wouldn't even have asked. But I think, I don't know, there's just something about the culture right now that my daughter thinks it's okay to eat by herself and not to sit with me. And like I say, I'm trying to change it. But I'm trying to pick my battles there, you know. I'm trying to pick my battles. I don't want to fight everything.
I love that Sarah and her daughter cook regularly together. I think that's going to make such amazing memories for her.
Definitely.
Of being connected. I'm speaking for you, Sarah. You say what it's like for you and your daughter to cook together.
Lovely. You know what? Lovely, lovely, lovely. And since we've been doing the keto and the Green Chef and all that, she has cooked with me almost every day. And she just loves the whole thing. She now has recipes that she likes. And we cook lots of different stuff now. I mean, she cooked me 3 times today. I thought, my goodness. I know. Oh. So she's loved it. She's absolutely loved it. And she loves tasting it as well. And like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And we serve it out and everything. And she enjoys food. This is the most I've seen her enjoy food in her life at the moment. Still only loves broccoli and cucumber. Nothing else. I'm trying every other vegetable in the sun. Doesn't like any of it. Will only eat broccoli and cucumber, but still happy to try different stuff, all different stuff. So that's fine. Apart from aubergines and mushrooms, she's not going to do that. And I love that. So yeah, I think it's great. I think it's great that she loves food and loves cooking, because I'm very aware also with kids and stuff about. I want her to love food. I want her to enjoy good food. I think that stands kids in good stead to understand what good food is. And good food isn't gourmet crap. Good food is, to me, is home cooked food, whatever that might be for that family. But it's got to be cooked by a person.
And with love. I always say to my kids, they know when I'm rushing because the food will not be right. It will either be burnt or too salty. Something is off. when I'm
It's-
cooking
yeah.
with love, it tastes completely different. My 18-year-old cooks almost every day. I come home and dinner's ready, which is great. And we eat together and we can have a
Lovely.
glass of wine together because she's 18. That's really, really nice. And
Oh, that's lovely.
I love that she looks forward to us eating together. And as you were talking, Sarah, I'm just wondering, and maybe this is for another podcast, ladies, but what are we passing down to our daughters or our sons, the next generation, about happiness? Are we going to give them the old tropes that we grew up with? Money doesn't buy you happiness. Money doesn't grow on trees. What are we passing down in terms of being content?
Wow, that is really interesting. I'm very aware what I tell Naya about all these kind of, money doesn't grow on trees and all this stuff, because, I have a strong belief in, if you want to do something in your life and you want to make a lot of money and you're focused, you can. That's it. That's the bottom line. You can do what you put your mind to. So I will tell her, like I was told by my dad. He told me, yes, money doesn't necessarily bring you happiness, but it will bring you opportunities and it'll bring you freedom. Those two things money does give you. So yeah, you need some, basically, to give you opportunities in life, to give you anything, really. I will tell Naya when she grows up, my daughter, I will tell her that money, can give you opportunities. And I'll tell her happiness. I will say to her that, a bit like you said, Karen, you'll have ups and downs. You'll have times when things aren't wonderful. You'll have times when things are great, and you'll have times in between. Happiness isn't something you strive for and have 24/7. Happiness is not wearing a smile on your face when you're feeling like crap. That's not happiness. Happiness isn't skipping around. That's mania to me, So I will say to her, happiness is balance, and happiness is peace, and happiness is, that feeling you get in your heart. That's how you feel happiness to me, is in your heart. So yeah, that's what I'll tell my daughter. How about you guys?
So I'm very close to my eldest. Not that I'm not close to my youngest, but she's going through that phase. But my eldest and I are very, very close, and we talk most days. And like I say, she's at uni. She too loves to cook. This child can cook the hell out of the kitchen, I'm telling you. She loves cooking, and she's always, sending me pictures. Oh, look, Mum, I made salmon and asparagus. She loves vegetables. She's the only child I know that gets really excited over eating kale, She loves her vegetables. So those things make her happy. She's also going through a bit of a difficult time of uni because everyone in the house is quite messy, and she is not messy. She likes things just so and very tidy. And so we have lots of conversations about the fact that, just because they're students, they don't have to live like slobs. So, but I do try and say to her that everyone's different, right? So you want to not let that become a real issue, because friendships are important. She's down there by herself. She's all the way up north. And so I want her to understand that being considerate of other people and being tolerant sometimes can bring you happiness. You can't fight everything. But I think one of the things that I have tried to instill in my children is that, like you say, Sarah, financial stability, or, is important. So I really did encourage university, and this is going to be quite controversial. I know that other people might think, you can, children or young people can take up apprenticeships, and they might be less of a burden in terms of having to pay back loans and things. But I always felt that actually education was really important, because I think that does bring opportunities. I think that it's probably better to study younger than it is later in life, like I did, when you've got other things going on, you're firefighting. So yeah, I think that having education was going to make a difference to her. Because in the long term, like you say, she'll have choice, and she will be able to have a job, hopefully, that will sustain her. Because the other thing I think about is she may not marry. She may not meet a significant other who's gonna provide for her financially in that way. She may be an independent woman for some time. And what I didn't want to do is go down the whole route of, this man's gonna ride on his horse and, sweep you off your feet. Yeah, you know what I mean? Because I don't know that. That's not something no one can guarantee that. She may meet somebody wonderful and that would be great, but I can't guarantee that. So I needed my Black girls to be independent, educated, and be able to stand on their own. I think that in itself will bring her immense happiness. So that for me was really, really important. Like I say, that's quite contentious. Some people may disagree, but that's my feeling on it.
I agree on the last part, Karen. Certainly, I want my children to know that the keys to their happiness should not be put in someone else's pocket. And being independent financially, being independent in terms of how they move through the world is key, because then they can make choices that our grandparents and great-grandparents didn't have. Relationships don't bring you happiness. Happiness is an inside job. You might be happy in a relationship, but if you are not happy on your own, that relationship will be difficult. And so for me, I think what I'd like both my son and my daughter to carry with them is to be at peace with themselves. Don't fight with themselves. To be grounded. So I don't want my daughter swept off her feet. I want her to be on the ground when she chooses love. I want her to choose from a place of conscious awareness, not falling into something, for instance. And the same for my son. I would like them to move beyond self-doubt and to really stand true in who they are. And I know that sometimes that's the work of a lifetime. But for me, if they can pursue the things that bring them joy, then they're on a good path. My daughter is not in college by choice. I'm very much pro-education. So it was hard when she chose to drop out, but it was right for her. And so clearly I've done something right in giving her the freedom to only do the things that bring her joy and not the things that make her anxious and stressed. Will she find a way? I'm absolutely sure she will. But I think more than anything, I want them to be at peace with themselves and to not overwork like I did. You miss the rainbows and the roses. If you're constantly working, they need to live spa days, holidays away with friends, really just enjoy being in the present moment. Yeah, that's what I'd like them to know.
Brilliant, excellent. Well, I'm hoping that all our kids will be quite balanced after understanding, what happiness means to us, and very different than, I guess, our parents and their experiences of happiness. But I guess our parents' experiences of happiness is a whole nother podcast in itself.
I also think, sorry, Sarah, to cut in. I was just going to say, I also think that even my idea of happiness won't necessarily be my children's idea of happiness, because my priorities are going to be different to theirs. And in fact, my eldest, she's the only young person I know who doesn't particularly enjoy clubbing. She's 20. You'd think that she'd be, living the life of Riley, but she doesn't mind. She said, Mom, I don't mind it, but it's not really my thing. I just thought it was so funny. But when I was her age, I loved the club. Quite embarrassed to admit that now, but
so did I.
My daughter had her first clubbing experience last night and she loved it. I think there will be more. But what she doesn't like is drunkenness. No, she's very much like, what is the point? So she'll have a drink, but she doesn't like getting drunk.
Yeah. No, clubbing was great. Clubbing was so fun. So fun. I was a serious clubber in my younger days. I was, so fun. But everyone's different, everyone's different, and about doing what makes you happy, even though it's cliche, isn't it? I find going to, I'd find going to the West End in some cheesy bar listening to pop music all night and drink everything for like 20 quid. I'd find that horrific. I find it horrible. And I don't want to do it. I did it once when I was about 23. Someone said, oh, you'll love this. And I didn't. I hated it. I hate pop music and I hate drunk people. And I didn't want to get a night bus. So, yeah. That was not happiness, Pete. That was hell. I was cold.
I didn't get the clubbing experience. I was in the church and choirs. To be fair, though, the music did make me quite happy. And I went clubbing later on in life. I quite like it.
I still club now.
Oh, excellent. Yeah. I will join you.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's been good. It's been good. Guys, I am going to put the new email for our podcast in the bio or the show notes, so everyone's got that. But yeah, we will see you next time for another podcast. Thank you.
And we would love to hear from you. What are your thoughts and ideas about happiness? What can you share from your experience? Send us an email, beautifullymelanatedpodcast@gmail.com.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye.
We are beautifully